Hi there, welcome to the latest episode of Craig Houston Talks To. And we've got Basil here again with us. And we were chatting earlier on about something. And we thought, might do a live and look at that more. So, Basil, it was about the headline taken over by Trump in Iceland.
Aye.
You put a bit of intellectual thought into it that kind of blew my head a wee bit, and I thought that makes sense because the two things that normally people are saying that the reasons for this, Trump wanting Greenland, is one strategical for an army base, stroke navy base, stroke air force base, or minerals, but through the NATO, you can do practically folk are like do what you want to that place, strategically. And Denmark have already told them if you want to bring in the infrastructure and the investment to utilise the minerals that are in Greenland, then crack on because you'll probably get more money and expertise than we have. And they would obviously make coin out of it as well. So that's what confused me was you couldn't see much a reason behind it, but you came up with a bit of a curveball and I thought, I think you might just have apple to it. So, what's the big reveal?
Right, this is just my theory on the matter, which, I spend a lot of time thinking about because I am a bit of a political junkie. But what I will say is that I always go to Occam's razor, which is the simplest answer is usually the correct one. And if you look at why would Trump want Greenland? Well, first off, Trump does not set American foreign policy. No president does. It's the military-industrial complex that has set it for the last 70 years. And it's understandable why, because they hold all the keys to the castle. They hold the power. They're the real reason why America is number one in the world. So the presidents usually listen to them. And Trump won his first presidency, was quite combative with them. This time round, he's absolutely in hock to them. Okay, so he's given them what they want. He's done this repeatedly. He went for Venezuela because they wanted to. Okay, the pressure they put on Iran is because they wanted to. Trump is not this way inclined, but what he's discovered is that by having successful military interventions, like they had in Venezuela, it brings him a lot of credibility and it brings him a lot of support and people get G'd up. So Trump wants to be loved, just like any president does. They want to be supported. And he's decided, let's go for Greenland because the Americans say, if we take it, you will go down in history as the president that expanded US territory more than in the last 150 years. Obviously, Greenland is bigger than Alaska. It's bigger than Hawaii. Okay, so these are the latest acquisitions in the... You're talking early 1900s. So, and 1800s for Alaska. So, when it comes to why they want to do this, well, I'll tell you this for free. They're not doing it because of the reasons they say they're doing it, okay? That might be part of it, but that's never the real reason why, okay? When you look at Greenland and you think, what actually is this? Well, first off, it's nowhere near as big as it looks on the map, okay? You've heard of the concept that maps stretch at the top, so the bigger in the north, the countries look a lot bigger than what they actually are, right? So if you see an actual scale for scale map, you'll notice Greenland's a lot smaller. But it's also 70% completely uninhabitable, i.e. it's ice caps, 70% of it, okay? So even if it's like, well, we want to mine the minerals on there, you ain't going to get any heavy mining on Greenland for at least, the latest estimates are 200 years of intense global warming at the highest rates possible, okay? So forget about that. That ain't going to happen. What might be the case is they want to stage military bases there. They want to put submarine pens there. They want to expand the Golden Dome, which is the anti-nuclear weapons thing that the Americans have. They want to do all these things. However, Denmark already lets them do those things. In fact, Denmark pays half the bill of every American infantry base on Greenland already, okay? Denmark is one of the US's biggest supporters in Europe, okay? It backs them in the EU all the time, okay? Basil sounds like he would have a good singing voice. Thank you very much, Joanne Gibson. But not Craig.
We'll karaoke later on, Joanne, once we get the politics done.
Yeah. But so basically, why would they want to do it? Why would they want to take Greenland if the Danish already give them what they want? Well, obviously, because they want to put something there that neither the Russians get to know about, nor do the American people get to know about, nor do the European Union get to know about. They want to put something there that is incredibly secretive, all right? Now, this could be one of those things where they keep it strictly for the Five Eyes countries, because remember, there is a NATO within NATO, right? So there's NATO, which is obviously lots of European countries in America and Canada and so on. And then there's the Five Eyes, which is the UK, New Zealand, Australia, USA and Canada, and that is it. France has asked to join, Sweden has to join. They all got told no, it's just us. They do not let anybody else in. So the thing is, why would you want this special place that no one knows what you want to do with it, where you can't really dig any minerals out of it? What is it for? Well, for me, it's obvious that it's the climate. Okay, the fact that it is a massive cold spot and that it's uninhabitable, so no one's going to know, and it's barely been mapped, so no one knows the terrain. And if you adjusted the terrain, no one would notice, you know, because obviously Alaska is very cold as well, but it's all mapped out, Alaska. It's very flat in large areas, Alaska. There are people who know the terrain of Alaska. They don't know Greenland. So the thing is, so you can hide something there really easily. What needs to be kept cool? Well, the new hot topic of this century is data centers. Lee, Ellie's just put it, data centers, exactly, Lee. So the thing is, if you want to turn around and say that the next war is going to be fought using drone warfare, it's going to be fought using AI, and basically the country with the biggest AI intelligence data centers, the biggest Skynet, if you want, that country is going to have a massive advantage in terms of defense mechanisms. Well, then obviously you want to put it in somewhere like Greenland because it will be so much cheaper to keep it there. Because the most expensive thing with any computer system, maintaining it, is to keep it cool. It's already a hell of a lot colder in Greenland. So my theory is that they're doing it for data centers. Obviously, I don't have any evidence for this. I don't know this for a fact. But if you look at the evidence that we do have, it's obvious that they're not doing it for the reasons they've claimed. And they want to do it for another reason. And the only one I can think of is, like I said, they're building the real Skynet to protect the USA.
Yeah. And because I'm kind of, when things don't make sense to me, that's when I get inquisitive, right? When you listen to spin and you think, well, that doesn't sound right, it's because it's kind of not right. So as this journey's went on about Trump's going to take over Iceland and all that, I keep saying Iceland, Greenland. The reasons for it just didn't add up to me. Because as you've already covered, if he wanted it for any sort of his armed forces, well, he's kind of got free rein to do that anyway. If it was for minerals and resource, he's already got an invitation to do that anyway. So it's like, well, it's bullshit what we've been told. And what you've said just actually makes perfect sense, because one of the things picked up in Davos was one of the American guys speaking at it. And he was telling the WEF that, look, for these data centers, that they're going to be the future, you're not producing enough energy. And I thought, well, that's kind of proper brilliant, right? Because all these data centers could be used for really good things, but they could also be used for really bad things. And they probably aren't selling us the idea of the really bad things. And if I was the guy at the top of the tree of all these conspiracy theorist ideas that wants to rule the world, I would be right into data centers, and I would be right into global warming, and I'd be right into all that nonsense to try and just stifle the rest of my opposition. So when I heard him saying that at WF, I had quite a bit of a chortle, because I thought the irony is, that's, in my opinion, the myth of global warming and all this climate stuff is a bit nuts. It's just the Earth doing what the Earth does. It's done it for its whole life. It's sometimes get warmer, sometimes get colder. So we're just constantly in that. And then they changed it from global warming to climate change. And it's like, well, climate always changes. And although I'm not saying we should deliberately put gases up into the atmosphere that don't do us any good, that's a different thing. But I think the man's influence on global warming is probably a third sight less than the people that push it tell us.
Yeah.
So I think it's total irony. There's a guy sitting there going, see that thing you want to scare the life out is with global warming. Guess what you've done? You've caused yourself a problem for the next thing you want to do, and that has had some sort of digital control over us, because all this stuff that you're going to need needs energy, and you're nowhere near creating enough for it, particularly as we swing to renewables and stuff like that. So I thought the irony on that was fantastic. So that's I think that's how we started talking about it. But you know, it makes sense, and when things do make sense, it's normally, as you say it. So when it makes more sense, it's normally the truth. And
I'll just address some of the comments, right? Because bipedal species, it's below the pole for satellite control. Also, I believe you're absolutely right, bipedal. So the thing is, this is the reason why I was thinking something else, because the Danish have already basically said, yeah, you can do satellite control from Greenland. So they've already said they can do that. So you're sat there going, well, what is it? It must be something that they want to keep secret so that even their allies don't know about it. Otherwise, why wouldn't you just let Denmark have it and build what you want there anyway? They want people not snooping around, is what I'm suspecting. It's high tech stuff is what they're trying to do. Regarding someone's just put, let me just find it. Yeah, Zoe A. Thompson put Davos, an American guy, talked about net zero scam. Says, why the hell would you buy batteries from China when you don't make them yourself? Her face, man. Yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, this is the crazy thing that's been going on in the EU for decades now. It's like we still buy, well, I say we don't, we're not in the EU, but the EU, the Europeans, they still buy Russian oil. They pay Russia and then they pay Ukraine, and they both sides are using the money to fight a war with each other. That's how insane things are in Europe right now. I mean, the other day, the German Chancellor turned around and said, it was the stupidest decision ever to get rid of nuclear energy. And he's right. It absolutely was. When they got rid of that under Angela Merkel and they said, we're going to go completely green, what actually happened was they started burning amazing amounts of coal. Okay, but they put it down as carbon capture clean coal. So basically what it was is they cooked the books. Okay, they actually made it look like it was cleaner than what it was, and it's not. That carbon still has to go somewhere. They just don't release it across the year. They release it in one go. In terms of recycling, it's the exact same thing. We used to pay China, right? And China would say, we'll get rid of your recycling for you, okay? Now, they did recycle some of it. Vast majority of it just got dumped somewhere. Then one day, China said, we don't want to do that anymore. So now we pay African countries, and they just pour it into their rivers. They take our rubbish and pour it into a river. So we can turn around and say, we paid someone to recycle that. That means it got recycled. It's bollocks, okay? These people are absolute liars. And the best thing about the Trump administration, without a shadow of doubt, whether you agree with him or not, is that he rocks up to these places like WEF in Davos and says, you're a bunch of crooks. You've been lying to everyone. You've impoverished your people. You've brought in millions of immigrants and you've ruined everything. And we're going to be the ones to fix it. So wake up and get with the program.
The whole thing stinks. But getting back to the Greenland thing, right? So these data centers, you need them for AI, and I guess the future wars are going to be drones and robots. Is that what would control them as well?
Yeah. So the theory is that obviously drones right now, the way they are done is generally speaking either pre-targeted or they have human intervention. Okay, so what we're seeing in Ukraine, and this is scary, right? Ukraine now has the biggest drone creating facility on the European continent, okay? And it's a war zone, right? So it's building more drones, and that's all it's using now, drones to fight its war, than anybody else in Europe. Germany is about to become the biggest. That one of their biggest factories in the country is now being converted from building mechanical parts to building drone parts, okay? So they're getting with the program too. Drones have turned out to be the next super weapon of war. They're doing so much damage. This is not just air drones that you think of. These are sea drones too. And what they've realized is they are basically suicide bombs that you can control. It's the kamikaze plane without the man inside, you know, and it's a lot smaller with a much higher explosive. So the Ukrainians have proven that drones are incredibly difficult to stop. To set up these EMF fields where you can block the signal and stuff, they're incredibly difficult to block too, because what they've done is the Ukrainians, they've actually started sending in trucks full of drones into Russia, So they appear just like a normal truck, right? And they've got the transmitter with a generator on the truck. So they get behind the EMF scanners that are set up across the border, and then they start controlling them inside Russia. And that's how they hit these big oil plants that are far out east. What you found is that basically it's a new style of warfare that's changing everything. What people are saying is, well, as things get quicker and better, men aren't going to be able to control these drones. It's not going to be a man with a radio controller that can say what you have to do. It's going to be AI. It's going to be computers, because they can compute everything and think about things faster. It's going to be like looking at a video game, right? You're going to watch two computers face off against each other as a battle for supremacy, and we're the victims on the ground. The question is who gets to be number one? And we can turn around and say it's scary. Elon Musk said this a few years ago. He said, I didn't want to get into the AI game. I said, I didn't think it was necessary. I thought we were going down the wrong path. But the truth is, it doesn't matter if you don't want to play the game. Other people are already playing the game. So China, Russia are already doing it. So the question is do you want to get left behind, or are you going to get ahead of them? And obviously the Americans have taken the stance of, we are going to get ahead of them. You've got to remember as well, the US are currently building the Golden Dome program. Okay, Golden Dome is the revamped Star Wars project from the 1980s. Okay, so what they're trying to do is they're trying to build similar to what the Iron Dome with the Israel. It's the same kind of technology, except this has also got satellite missiles. So there'll be missiles in space now. And what they do is they're going to cover the entire North American continent in this protective layer. And apparently that will stop nukes from ever hitting America, Canada, or Mexico, or the Caribbean. Whether it works or not, I don't know. But they believe clearly that it can. It's a multi-trillion-pound project across an entire continent, and they're doing it using AI. They are basically relying on computers to protect them, which, again, makes for an interesting future.
So I think it was an interview or a post that he put out. Elon was talking about some new facility that he's had to build for Grok. And it was like massive, just to keep Grok going, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you've seen it. So it's huge.
Aye, so realistically, see, taking that as the sort of ground starting point, if you want something that's going to defend the whole of America, I take it it's got to be bigger than that thing.
Yes.
Substantially so.
Well, actually, I mean, look, I don't know. That is the first answer, but I don't think the size is the problem. I think it's the amount of power it takes. These warehouses, you've got to remember, it's not just data chips inside of them. There's massive cooling centers inside of these things as well to operate it and keep it going. So it's the security, it's the cooling centers, all this accumulates in these huge factories. Now, Elon Musk's built his in Texas, okay? Not a very cool part of the world, right? So, so you can imagine the size of this thing and the fans and the cooling water, liquid cooling centers and all the rest of it that are going through to keep this cool. Greenland, very cold. So it would be a different matter. And that's why I believe is what I've said is the case.
Well, it kind of makes sense, doesn't it?
It does if you want to go into the next half of the century, being the number one AI military in the world. What's this? Never thought about these theories, Basil. It talks about, but it all really makes sense. Yeah, exactly. I mean, look, it's always the simple. It's just think they're lying, right? And there's nothing new about that, right? When a country turns around and says, we want Greenland, we want to take it for the, you know he's just bullshit. And you know he's not telling the truth. And why would he? He's not going to turn around and say what they actually want it for. This inhospitable, piece of land that even the Vikings didn't settle on. Do you know what I mean? They were sat there going, this is just, we'll stick with Britain, thank you. We'll go and settle there instead. This piece of land that nobody wants, really. It's got hardly anybody living there. Denmark managed to take it over. I mean, let's be honest, right? If it was a decent piece of real estate, the British Empire or the French Empire would have took it centuries ago, right? They left it with Denmark. Nobody wanted it. But the Americans have realized there's something we can do there, and they're not telling the truth. And again, if you look at what they're investing in right now, multi-trillions in the Golden Dome project, multi-trillions in the AI project, it makes sense that they want to put it there.
Mm-hmm. And you're starting with a temperature that's probably 30, 40 degrees cooler.
Yeah, than anywhere. Yeah. Well, the thing is, you said to me, you were saying, why not Alaska? I think Alaska is because it's so mapped. I mean, they've had Alaska it's been a state for the last 70 years or something. I mean, Alaska's just so well known. And obviously it is a lot more habitable than Greenland. It's got loads more people there. And again, it's obvious that Alaska is somewhere where they've looked at it and just went, no, what we need to do is go Greenland because no one knows about it. It's completely it's so inhospitable. It's just so uninhabitable. So no one's going to go there.
Tell me this. How did Greenland end up being a sort of, is it a protectorate, how you would describe it, of Denmark?
Well, it's probably,
I'm kind of going to be wildly disappointed.
Well, I've typed in Google. Greenland became part of Denmark through centuries of evolving ties, starting with Norse settlements, thus then becoming part of the Union of Denmark, Norway, and finally transferred to Danish rule when Norway separated in 1814. After World War II, Greenland was integrated as a Danish county and gained extensive self-governance in stages, becoming a self-ruling country within the Kingdom of Denmark in 2009. So, it's just been left. It's a piece of land no one wanted, mate. Do you know what I mean? And no one cared about. I'll be honest with you, it's kind of like the Falkland Islands, right? Again, why we never had to fight for that until Argentina came along, because the other empires just left it. They didn't want it, you know what I mean? And it was like, well, it's a rock with penguins on, you know? And so this is what happens with these places around the world where people... Now, again, this is because they couldn't envisage Air Force bases and, what's the island in the middle? Ascension Island in the middle of the Atlantic. People don't realise that's a massively important base right in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean. But it's because they couldn't envisage this kind of travel. It was like, well, if you travel in 9 months, anywhere you go, it doesn't really make much difference. These are the things that make a difference. So, yeah, Greenland's just been left there with it. It's the same with Alaska, right? Alaska... The Americans bought it off the Russians for a tiny price. I can't remember the number, but it was like $500 or something. It was nothing because they thought there was nothing there. And then 50 years later, they found oil there and it was worth a fortune. It was like, well, this is the greatest buy ever,
Suddenly it was pretty poor, piss poor sell. Aye. So many folk are there. It's 100,000. I mean, it's like fucking nobody there, even if it looks big on the map. Aye, you're right. It's like...
And the key thing is 56,000 people, right? So just to give you an idea, there's 54,000 people on the Faroe Islands, right? And there's 56,000 people on Greenland, right? That's what we're talking about here, okay? So Greenland, and it's tiny. The area that they inhabit is like a tiny little portion of it. The vast majority of it is just open field, territory, ice, all the rest of it. So, the Vikings called it Greenland to attract people when it's never been green. That's absolutely correct. Yeah, they called it Greenland for that reason. So, yeah, so again, look, Trump's going to get it. They're going to get it one way or another because they can just take it if they wanted to, okay? No one can stop them. But I don't think they'll come to that. I think what will happen is they will assign part of it as an American zone and they'll sell it for that purpose, and it'll basically be, this is your area, but technically we get to call it Greenland still.
Because it's kind of a triangle, right? And there'll be a bit of the triangle where people live, and there'll be massive bits of that triangle where nobody lives. So even if they just took like 70% of it, which would equate to about 1% of the population, maybe 0% of the population, and just say, right, that's now America, and crack on and do it all.
Well, it's never going to become a state. It's never going to happen. This is going to be a military zone only. Okay, so I imagine the people who live there will be allowed to stay for a set period of time, or maybe it's in perpetuity, and they might just say, "Well, we're doing our business on the other side of the island." But if they ever encroach near to what's going on, you will never hear of those people again. They will just disappear into America. I mean, Trump's even said he could make them all millionaires, and it would be the cheapest acquisition of land ever. If he turned around and said to the 56,000 people there, hey, let's have a vote. If you vote to give us Greenland, we'll give you $1 million each. $56 million. $56 billion for Greenland is what it would cost. It's not a lot. Do you know what I mean? So, aye.
Yeah. Aye, but interesting stuff. So, what's a timescale we're talking here?
Well... who knows? I mean, Trump, look, Trump's presidency's got another 3 years to run. So there you go. That's when he's going to get done by. He wants to be known as the president that took Greenland, without a doubt. He wants to leave behind a legacy, okay? And he will be known as that if he gets it. I mean, it'll be, like I say, it'll go down in history. Everyone will know he was the president who did it. And he'll be one of those famous presidents who acquired lots and lots of land. I mean, if you turn around and think about the presidents who've made the country bigger, Thomas Jefferson obviously is thought of as, because he acquired basically like a third of the country expanded by, took it off Napoleon for a small fee. If you look at Trump and he does the same thing, he will go down in history. There's no question. And, you know, and by the way, though, Canada's got to be looking pretty fucking sketchy, because Canada will then be surrounded by America on all three sides of its borders.
Yeah.
It's already got Greenland. It's already got Alaska in America, south and west, and now it'll have Greenland to the northeast. So, Mr. E, good idea. $1 million. Imagine them doing that and just saying, listen, everyone, you get $1 million, right? What does that work out as? 56,000 times $1 million. Is that 560 billion or 56 billion? I can't remember.
Well, 1,000 million's a billion. So,
so that 56 billion then, yeah? Right. So 56 billion, nothing. A drop in the fucking ocean for America. They spend that in an afternoon, you know? So
they spend that in condoms as part of US aid.
Exactly. So yeah,
the idea that it's not really that significant amount of money, which is scary.
I'm not being funny, but if they turned around and said, "Listen, you get to live exactly as you are. You just become Americans. We'll give you $1 million." I'd take that deal. If you're in Greenland, what have you got to do with Denmark? Do you know what I mean? It's not like you feel Danish. They're so far away. It's impossible. When you hear them talk English, they speak with American accents or Canadian accents, you know? So, yeah. You're absolutely right. Do you know, Albert, a load of people in Canada are now sat there going, we want to become Americans. You're absolutely right. Because Canada's gone so far left liberal that they're pissed off about it. And Alberta's thinking about joining America. I don't think that'll happen, but I think there will be attempts to make it happen. Definitely.
Aye, right. Interesting. So we're going to do something a bit weird here. The live's going to carry on, but there'll be some people watching the clip of the live, and I'm just going to actually condense that down to the first half hour that we've been talking about the topic. So if that's you, thank you very much for tuning in. Click the thumbs up, put your comments below, and make sure you're subscribed. Share bye now. So the rest of the stuff, right? We've got Davos.